Our next speaker is Jessica Rigby. The title of her talk, Anti-Racist Instructional Leadership.
So a couple of years ago, I was sitting in a professional learning session that was aimed towards teaching teachers about ambitious mathematics. And it was a typical school in Washington. Most of the teachers and the principal were white. Most of the students who they were serving were students of color. And we were choosing a task to bring to the second grade. A beautifully rich task was suggested, and the teacher said, with a familiar skepticism, "My students are really sweet, but that task is too hard." Now, this teacher cared about her students. She wanted them to feel safe. She wanted them to feel successful. And it illustrates that it's not enough to ensure that all teachers know how to teach high-quality mathematics. They also need to believe that their kids can do it. Let me be clear that the reason why I think that teachers think that their kids can't do it is because they're racist. We, white people, are racist. In a state where 90% of our teachers and leaders are white and 45% of our students are people of color, this is an urgent question. And the question isn't, are we racist? The question is, how do we become anti-racist? So we are working on this project, and we're just in the beginning stages. We're reading the rich literature around race and mathematics and around culturally responsive school leadership. And there are principals and school leaders that are also doing this work. And we're learning alongside them, asking them about what they're doing and trying to understand how they're making sense of the challenges that they're coming up against. What they are paying attention to, well, what we've noticed is, first of all, it's complex, and second of all, it's contextual. And usually two things are present. The first thing is that folks are paying attention to students' mathematical identities and their experiences. And the second thing is that they are introducing new practices that disrupt ones that reify institutional racism. So what does this look like? We were in a school last Friday, and there was a professional learning session for 4th and 5th grade teachers that was led by a teacher leader. And she first started off by narrating that students of color often feel low status in mathematics. She said, they don't feel like mathematicians, and it's our job to raise their status. So she framed the work around students' racialized mathematics identities. And then she introduced a new practice. And this new practice was around group work. Students had roles. There were sentence stems for students to use to ask each other questions around the challenging math task. And then the teachers had a practice where they were helping the students think about their groups as they were functioning as a group. Like how were they working together as a group, regardless of the math? And she said that by working on this process, that they were going to be able to think about specifically students' status as it related to their racialized mathematics identities, and help raise their status in the group work. And she also paid attention to teachers' learning, and she gave the teachers an opportunity to try it out. So I was in a group, we worked on math together. We each had a role, we used the sentence stems, we talked about our own mathematical identities and how they were racialized. So we practiced together as learners before the teachers brought it back to their classrooms, hopefully this week or next. What we are also learning is that this needs to happen in a particular context. So the teacher leader who did that work is white. The principal of her school, however, identifies as a person of color. And she narrates how when she grew up, she thought of herself as being bad at math. And she said that was both accepted and expected. And she eventually became a math teacher because she was like, no, that's not right. I am going to be good at math. But she has worked very strategically to cultivate a school culture where teachers are both expected and supported to think about race in really complex and critical ways in their everyday instruction. My heart is really full because this work is really complex and it's ongoing and it's messy, right? When you're talking about race in any situation, either as a white person or as a person of color to a group of white people, which is often what happens in our schools. So it's complex, it's messy, it's ongoing, and I'm really feel blessed to be a part of the process, to see folks working on this and finding ways to become anti-racist and to push against racist systems.